DEATHCORElegacy. Book 1, Part 1. Chapter 1. Present Day, 3199 S or AD. As Chief Petty Officer Jackson walked to the display panel to check the status of his crew's stasis pods, he entered the command codes. An artificial intelligence voice activated and announced, "Revitalization granted." The pods hissed, and their upper glass covers opened. The Chief Petty Officer barked, "Rise and shine! You fuck nuggets! Move it! Move it! Mess hall at 13:30 hours, briefing at 1400. Hustle those muscles, people! It's patrol time! My grandmother moves faster than a jackrabbit on space crack. Now move!" He shouted his orders like there was no tomorrow. Besides, people were the logistic crew we keep our ship spick and spam. We are a mixed crew of mechanics, engineers, and some of us are jerry-rigged scum of the universe back ass. When things break, you do it with pride and honor, with a duct tape and a prayer. Meanwhile, our patrol fleet was running missions through the Kuiper Belt at the edge of our solar system, known as Sol. The fleet included our support ship, 2 battle cruisers, 2 frigates, and a mid-sized battleship, enough firepower to discourage most space pirates. The UHDF Phoenix, that mid-sized battleship, served as the fleet's flagship. Throughout the solar system, our unit was known as the Phoenix Inquisitors, along with a few other call signs too inappropriate to repeat. On the bridge of the UHDF Phoenix, Captain Adam asked, "Lieutenant, status report. Are we clear on the Kuiper Belt route?" "Yes, ma'am," Lieutenant Connor replied. "For now, the only thing to expect is the unexpected." "That's correct, Lieutenant. Anything else, Connor?" "No, ma'am. We're all clear for now." "Ensign, run a deep passive scan." With precise movements across the holographic keypad, Ensign Kimura Ju-un initiated a deep space scan out to a radius of 15 light-years. "No return pings, ma'am," she reported. "Lieutenant, what's the status of our patrol fleet?" "All systems are ready, ma'am. Green across the board," the lieutenant replied. The captain nodded. "Good. Everything looks clear." She scanned the bridge, then addressed the crew. "Stay frosty, people." In unison, the bridge crew responded, "Yes, ma'am." Back aboard the support vessel, UHDF Mockingbird. "Come on, Chief. Can I get 5 more minutes?" asked Seaman Hanks, nicknamed Shot-Eye. The CPO pointed 2 fingers at his eyes and snapped, "Look into my eyes, sweetheart. Mommy said, get your lazy Shot-Eye skinny ass up." "Mon, that call sign has gotta go," Hanks protested. "Never," the Chief Petty Officer replied with a devious smile. "Hey, Chief, what's our work detail today, sir?" Hanks asked. "Spacewalk, Mr. Shot-Eye," the Chief Petty Officer replied. Hanks pumped his fist in excitement. As Hank walked down the corridor toward the mess hall to grab some food before his work detail, the smell of bacon and burgers hit him as soon as he stepped inside. "Hell yeah, now that's breakfast," he thought, breathing it in. First things first, coffee. While the patrol fleet drifted along the frozen edge of Sol, every holographic display aboard the ships erupted in crimson warning light. On the bridge of the Mockingbird, alarms screamed over the grinding protest of stressed metal. Lieutenant Commander Drew grabbed the armrest of his command chair as the vessel lurched beneath him. "Comms, get me the Phoenix, now!" Communications Officer Madison's hands flew across her console. "Channel open." Drew leaned toward the pickup, his voice strained but controlled. "Adam, we need immediate support. Something has latched onto our hull." Static cracked across the line. Then Drew added, almost unwilling to believe his own words, "It looks like a giant squid." On the Phoenix, Captain Adams' expression tightened. "Say again?" Lieutenant Connor checked the incoming feed, and the blood drained from her face. The main display refreshed. A vast shape unfolded across the darkness, tentacles wrapped around the Mockingbird like living chains. For one stunned second, no one on the bridge moved. Then someone whispered, "That's not a squid. That's a nightmare." Captain Adam rose from her chair. "Launch starfighters, all available squadrons. Keep that thing distracted while we bring the main gun around for a kill shot." Captain Adam turned sharply toward Connor. "Relay to the Phoenix docking bay. Captain Roberts is to deploy no fewer than 15 fighter squadrons and pull that creature's attention away from the Mockingbird. I want our firing corridor clear before it tears that ship open." Connor opened the channel, her professional tone barely hiding the tension underneath. "Docking bay, this is Bridge Command. Featherhead, you are cleared for immediate combat launch. Full squadron deployment. Target is hostile, unidentified, and attached to a friendly hull." She paused, then added more quietly, "Roberts, Godspeed. Come back alive." Captain Roberts's voice answered through the static. "Yes, ma'am." In the launch bay, magnetic clamps released one fighter after another, and the deck shook as engines screamed to life. Captain Roberts guided his starfighter into the black with the rest of his pilots, spreading out behind him in tight formation. Beyond the cockpit glass, the creature's silhouette swallowed the stars. Roberts felt his grip tighten around the controls. "What the hell am I flying into?" "1 minute to approach Vector," the squadron captain announced. Across the comms, 15 squadrons answered as one. "Locked and loaded." A voice broke through the tension, half chant and half prayer. "We aim high, we aim low. Doom comes from heaven above, like lightning crashing down to earth." Roberts glanced at the tactical feed and forced a thin smile. "Lieutenant First Class Merrick, keep your head in the game." Another pilot cut in, trying to sound braver than he felt. "We should give him a call sign." "What about Preacher?" someone suggested. "Hell no," Merrick protested at once. "I want to be called Doom, Destroyer of Worlds," Merrick said. For a moment, only engine noise filled the channel. Then Roberts opened a private line, his eyes locked on the massive tentacles tightening around the Mockingbird. "I like the confidence, Merrick." He switched back to the squadron frequency. "Welcome to the squadron, Preacher." Laughter burst across the comms, brief, nervous, and badly needed. Merrick exhaled like a man accepting a life sentence. "Fuck my life." The laughter died as the creature shifted. One tentacle peeled away from the Mockingbird and drifted toward the incoming fighters with terrible, silent purpose. Roberts watched the distance counter collapse. 30,000 meters. 20. 10. His targeting reticle turned red. 30 seconds to approach Vector, he announced. "Weapons hot. Stay alive long enough to make it angry." Chapter 2. The creature moved before Roberts could finish the warning. A tentacle snapped across the dark like a living whip, faster than anything that massive had any right to be. 3 fighters at the rear of the formation vanished in sudden blossoms of fire, their transponder icons blinking out one after another. For half a second, the comms filled with static, alarms, and cut-off screams. Roberts's stomach tightened, but his voice came out hard. "Evasive maneuvers! Break formation!" The squadron split on instinct, half rolling starboard, half rolling port. Engines howling as their inertial dampeners strained near 12 Gs. Roberts banked hard enough for stars to smear across his canopy. Through the blur, he saw the thing fully for the first time. A cathedral-sized predator wrapped around a warship, its translucent flesh rippling with unnatural color. So that's what I'm fighting. "All squadrons, open fire," Roberts ordered. "Aim for the limbs and keep clear of the Mockingbird. I want surgical shots, not friendly fire." Streams of blue-white tracer fire tore through the void as the fighters swarmed the creature from every angle. The beast recoiled, its skin flashing from black to violet to sickly green as the impacts burned across its surface. Aboard the Phoenix, the main gun began to charge, filling the bridge with a low vibration that climbed through the deck plates and into every bone. Tactical displays drew a glowing firing corridor through the chaos. Captain Adam watched the reticle crawl toward alignment. "Hold it steady," she said. "Give me one clean shot." Inside the Mockingbird, Seaman Hanks had just lifted his coffee when the whole mess hall slammed sideways. The mug flew from his hand. Breakfast trays exploded across the room. For 3 weightless seconds, Hanks drifted above the deck with bacon, coffee, and terrified crewmen spinning around him like debris in a storm. Then gravity snapped back. He hit the floor shoulder first and skidded into the base of a table. "That," he groaned, "is going to hurt tomorrow." The shipwide speakers crackled, and Lieutenant Commander Drew's voice thundered through every corridor. "Battle stations! All hands! Battle stations!" The Mockingbird was not built to brawl with monsters. Her point defense grid was meant for missiles, boarding craft, and the occasional pirate skiff, not tentacles thicker than shuttle corridors. Still, the gunners did what they could. Turrets along the damaged hull snapped toward the movement and opened fire, chewing chunks from the creature's limbs wherever they could find a clean angle. On the bridge, Lieutenant Commander Drew gripped the rail as another impact rattled the deck. "All crew, environmental suits now," he ordered. "We are losing pressure on multiple decks. Move!" Hanks heard the order and ran. Red light strobed across the corridor as he shoved past loose panels, drifting toolkits, and crewmen pulling emergency masks over their faces. By the time he reached the locker room beside the docking bay, his pulse was hammering in his ears. He yanked an environmental suit from its rack, stepped in, sealed the collar, and slapped the pressure check with one shaking hand. The suit blinked green. "Good enough," he muttered, and grabbed the nearest helmet. Outside, the battle widened. One of the destroyers climbed above the engagement plane, its orbital cannons rotating into position. Fighters scattered. The Phoenix's main weapon neared full charge. Every ship in the patrol fleet seemed to draw one collective breath. Then the void split open. A dark, crimson beam lanced out from empty space with impossible precision, crossing the battlefield in a single, silent stroke. It struck the creature between its eyes, burned through its skull, and punched clean through the clustered mass of its 3 hearts. For a moment, no one understood what they had seen. Captain Adams stared at the tactical display as the creature's vital signatures collapsed in perfect sequence. "Where did that shot come from?" she demanded. No one answered. The squid convulsed once, its enormous body flashing through a final storm of color, before fading to a dead, pale white. The tentacles slackened. The stars behind it reappeared. As the creature died, its grip finally loosened from the Mockingbird's hull. Twisted armor plates peeled away from the ship like torn skin, and vapor vented from ruptured compartments in glittering white streams. On the bridge, Lieutenant Commander Drew forced himself upright. "Damage report." Intelligence Officer Mitchell scanned the readouts, his face tight. "Hull breaches across decks 4 through 18. Atmospheric pressure holding at 75% and falling in isolated compartments. Shields at 85%. Drew already knew the next question would hurt. "Casualties?" Mitchell hesitated for half a breath. 10 confirmed killed in action, 30 injured. Drew closed his eyes once, then opened them. "Seal the breaches. Prioritize survivors." Across the patrol fleet, damage reports rolled in one after another. Fighters limped back toward their bays with scorched wings and cracked canopies. Rescue teams launched. Medics prepared trauma stations before the first wounded even arrived. Victory, if that was what anyone wanted to call it, felt too quiet and too expensive. Back on the Phoenix, Captain Adams stood at the center of the bridge, jaw tight. "Someone give me a readout," she ordered. "Weapon origin, energy signature, vector. Anything." The officers worked in frantic silence. No one liked what their screens were telling them. Nothing had appeared on long-range scan. Nothing had announced itself. Nothing should have been close enough to fire that shot. Adam's eyes narrowed. And while you are at it, explain how our scans missed a creature the size of a battleship. Before anyone could respond, static burst across the bridge speakers. Every security light on the communications console flashed red. Then a woman's voice slid through the encrypted channel, as if the fleet's firewalls were little more than tissue paper. Good morning, people. Captain Adam turned slowly toward the speakers. Identify yourself. How did you access a military encryption channel? Easily, the woman replied. But that is not the part you should be worried about. Adam's glare sharpened. Then explain why every sensor in my fleet missed that thing. The voice remained calm, almost amused. The creature I killed in your defense shares several traits with Earth's mollusca phylum, especially squid. Its skin is layered with chromatophore-like pigment cells, capable of shifting color, texture, and thermal reflection. Against deep space, it becomes a hole where your sensors expect darkness. Passive scans mistake it for background noise. Active scans slide across it, unless you know exactly what pattern to look for. Captain Adam realized the voice was still audio only. No face, no ship ID, no beacon. Nothing. She eased back into her command chair, though her hand stayed close to the armrest controls. All right, she said. You have my attention. Who are you? The woman on the line let the question hang long enough for the bridge to feel it. How about I reintroduce myself, Captain? The forward holographic display flickered. Static crawled across the projection. Then the stars directly ahead bent, shimmered, and tore open around the outline of a colossal warship. The vessel decloaked in layers, armor plates and weapon spines, appearing from the void like a nightmare, deciding to become real. It dwarfed the patrol fleet. Even the Phoenix looked suddenly small beneath its shadow. Someone at the rear of the bridge whispered, "That is a big mother." Another officer, apparently unable to help himself, muttered, "That's what she said." Lieutenant Connor did not laugh. Her eyes were locked on the classification data forming across her station. "That is a dreadnought," she said quietly. "Second-generation Titan class." The words carried across the entire bridge like a warning bell. Then the woman appeared on the main display. Captain Adam's breath caught. For one unguarded second, rank, bridge protocol, and the dead creature outside all vanished beneath recognition. "Yuna?" she said. "How? What are you doing here?" Her eyes dropped to the insignia on the woman's uniform, and shock struck again. "Rear Admiral?" The bridge went completely still. Adam straightened, fighting to recover the command mask that had slipped from her face. "You are commanding the Dark Fleet?" Rear Admiral Yuna Adams smiled faintly, equal parts affection and trouble. "Calm your nuts down, little sister. It is a long story." Captain Luna Adam inhaled once, then snapped back into military discipline. "I apologize for my outburst, Admiral." Yuna's smile softened. "Apology accepted, Captain." Chapter 3. 4 hours earlier, before the crimson beam split the battlefield, and before anyone on the Phoenix knew the Dark Fleet was watching, Seaman Hanks stood inside the Mockingbird's docking bay, with one hand braced against a shaking bulkhead. The bay light strobed red. Outside the magnetic shield, wreckage spun through the black like burning shrapnel. A holographic tactical feed flickered above the launch deck, replaying the moment 3 starfighters were swatted from formation by the creature's tentacles. Their transponder icons blinked from green to amber to dead. Hank stared at the empty markers, swallowed hard, and pointed toward a 5-person rescue craft locked in its cradle. You, and you, whoever the hell you are. I need help with recovery. Now." One of the docking bay crew looked from Hanks to the rescue craft, then to the shattered battlefield beyond the shield. "Whatever you're planning, I'm in." The others followed before fear could talk them out of it. They slammed into the craft and strapped in, while Hanks dropped into the pilot's seat, hands moving faster than procedure allowed. He skipped half the safety prompts, cold-started the reactor, and forced the engines through a warm-up cycle that should have taken 10 minutes. The console protested in angry red warnings. Hanks ignored every one of them. 6 minutes later, the clamps released with a metallic crack, and the rescue bird shot out of the Mockingbird like a bullet into a storm. The debris field swallowed them almost immediately. Hanks rolled left around a tumbling wing section, dropped under a spinning engine core, then punched the craft between two drifting armor plates, close enough for sparks to scrape across the canopy. "Dude," Crewman 2 groaned, clutching his restraints. "Slow down, or I'm going to repaint this cockpit from the inside." Crewman 3 barked a nervous laugh. "Don't be a sissy, he's showing off." "I am absolutely not showing off," Hanks snapped, eyes locked on the sensor feed. "Those 3 pilots are out here somewhere, and we are not leaving them in the dark." The cabin went quiet. Then all 3 crewmen answered together. "Yes, sir." "Scan for suit beacons," Hanks ordered. "Ignore the wreckage unless it is moving toward us." Crewman 3 bent over the console, sweeping the field again and again, while the rescue craft drifted between fragments of burned fighters. 15 minutes passed in a silence broken only by proximity alarms and Hanks muttering threats at the steering thrusters. Then Crewman 3 straightened. "I've got them. 3 beacons. Weak, but stable." Hanks exhaled through his teeth. "All right, boys, we go in slow." He eased the craft toward the bodies, fighting the pull of drifting debris and the distant shock waves from the battle. Crewmen 1 and 2 clipped into safety lines, sealed their helmets, and launched from the side hatch with maneuvering packs. Their suit lamps cut pale cones through the dark as they opened a recovery net and gathered the fallen pilots one by one. No one joked. No one rushed the names. When the last body was secured and the crewmen hauled themselves back inside, Hank sealed the hatch and reached for the thrusters. Before he could fire them, the universe turned crimson. A beam of dark red light tore across the battlefield, so bright it punched through the canopy filters and blinded all 4 men for a heartbeat. Someone yelled, "What in the big Mississippi Jesus was that?" Hanks blinked hard, vision swimming. Somebody just found their southern roots. Then the dead creature's silhouette flashed white in the distance and began to drift apart. Hanks pushed the throttle forward. "In all seriousness, boys, we're heading home. I have 0 interest in meeting my maker today. Present ship time." "I'm coming aboard your ship, Captain Adam," Rear Admiral Una. Adam said, her voice carrying the calm weight of command. "Prepare a docking bay for my arrival." "Yes, ma'am," Captain Adam replied. For the first time since the transmission began, Una's tone softened. "I will be there in 30. She paused, and something older than rank passed between the sisters. For old time's sake. On the bridge of the Phoenix, Captain Adam turned from the main display and faced her crew. Every officer suddenly found a reason to sit straighter. "Behave yourselves," she said. "The Rear Admiral is coming aboard." Her gaze swept across each station. "That means no side comments, no staring, and absolutely no one asks about the Dark Fleet unless she brings it up first. Am I understood?" In unison, the bridge crew replied, "Aye, aye, Captain." Adam nodded once. "Connor, notify docking control. Clear Bay 2 and have an honor detail standing by. Kimura, keep passive scans running. If anything else out there decides to decloak and ruin my morning, I want to know before it says hello." "Yes, ma'am," Connor replied. Adam lowered her voice just enough for the nearest officers to hear. And for the record, people, this is not a reunion. This is official fleet business. She paused, then added dryly, even if the Admiral did just vaporize a space squid and call me little sister on an open channel. A few mouths twitched. No one laughed. Adam's expression hardened back into command, though unease lingered behind her eyes. Lieutenant, you have the bridge. I will be in my office. Chapter 4. Captain Luna Adam entered her office aboard the Phoenix and let the door seal behind her before the mask finally cracked. The bridge had needed a captain, so she had given them one. Now, alone beneath the low office lights, she braced both hands against the edge of her desk and forced herself to breathe. The casualty reports glowed across the surface in cold columns of names, hull breaches, missing personnel, damaged bays, and red-marked losses that refused to become numbers no matter how long she stared at them. That was rough, she whispered, though the words felt too small. Something still gnawed at her. Not the dead creature, not the dark fleet. Something quieter, something absent. She scrolled through the fleet status again, and her stomach tightened before her mind caught up. 2 frigates were not reporting in. Before she could open a channel, the office door hissed open. Rear Admiral Una Adams stood in the doorway, uniform immaculate, expression carrying the kind of sorrow command officers learn to hide badly. "Having trouble focusing on your report?" Una asked. Luna looked up, already afraid of the answer. "Yes," she said. "How did you know?" Una stepped inside and closed the door behind her. "Before we get to business, sit down." Luna did not move. "Admiral." "Luna," Una said, softer now, using the name like a hand on her shoulder. "Sit." The command in it was gentle, which somehow made it worse. Luna lowered herself into the chair. A service bot rolled in with 2 steaming mugs and placed them on the desk. "Coffee delivery complete. You're welcome," it announced, then rolled back out as if fleeing the room's gravity. Neither sister reached for the mugs. Una remained standing for a moment, searching for the right words, and clearly hating that none existed. "I know what you noticed," she said at last. "The 2 frigates." Luna's eyes sharpened. "They missed their damage check-in. I was about to order a full search pattern." Una's face tightened. "Don't." Luna froze with her hand halfway to the comm panel. "Why?" Una drew a slow breath. "Because there is nothing to find." The sentence struck harder than any alarm. Luna stared at her, unable to make it fit inside the room. "No," she said. "No, that's not. Run the scans again." "I already did." "Then run them again." "Luna!" Una's voice broke just enough for the younger captain to hear the sister beneath the Admiral. "They're gone. I'm sorry?" Luna pushed back from the desk, as if distance could change the truth. "How?" The word came out sharp, desperate, almost a demand. Una lowered herself into the visitor's chair, her own hands clasped too tightly in her lap. "I was docked at Europa Station, running a digital systems upgrade on the Romulus. Long-range visual caught movement between 30 and 60 astronomical units out. Too far for a clean tactical lock, close enough to scare the hell out of my analysts. I magnified the feed and saw the Phoenix fleet." Her jaw flexed. "Then I saw the creature." Luna said nothing. Una continued, quieter. "It hit your formation from the blind side. The frigates tried to break off, but it was already on them. 1 tentacle wrapped around each hull. Their engines flared, then died. I watched both ships disappear into its mouth." Luna's face went pale. For a moment, the office felt too small to contain the silence between them. "How many?" she asked. Una did not look away. "Full crews." Luna closed her eyes, but that only made it worse. She could imagine the bridges, the engine rooms, the junior crew laughing over bad coffee minutes before the alarms. Una's voice hardened. not with anger at Luna, but at the memory. I ordered a short-burst teleport, and took the shot the second the Romulus had angle. I put it through that bastard's eye and through all 3 hearts. Luna opened her eyes. Holy fucking shit! Yuna gave a humorless little breath. That is exactly what I said. Then she straightened, the Rear Admiral returning because the dead still needed the living to work. I have called in a star carrier to assist with recovery and stabilization. The Mockingbird will dock with it for emergency support. Tell Drew to treat it like a tow and triage platform, not a suggestion. Luna swallowed and nodded. Yuna's gaze softened. You know what happens next. The Phoenix fleet is temporarily out of the fight, Luna said, though every word cost her. Until further notice, Yuna replied. There was no smile this time. Your fleet will receive a retrieval escort, Yuna said. No ship moves alone. No wounded vessel makes for Mars without cover. I'm assuming command responsibility for the recovery corridor until every surviving crew member is accounted for. Luna looked down at the casualty list again, her fingers curling slowly into a fist. Thank you, Admiral. The title came first because it had to. Then, quieter, almost breaking, she added, Thank you, Yuna. Operational summary. Rear Admiral Yuna. Adam orders the Phoenix fleet withdrawn from active combat operations, until further notice after confirming the loss of 2 frigates and significant casualties across the patrol group. She assumes command responsibility for the recovery corridor, assigns a retrieval escort, and directs the damaged vessels toward military repair facilities near Mars. Captain Luna Adam acknowledges the order, shifting the fleet's priority from combat readiness to survivor recovery, casualty mitigation, vessel stabilization, and protection of the wounded. For several seconds, neither sister spoke. The office hummed softly around them, indifferent and alive. Then Yuna glanced toward the door. Lock it. Luna blinked. What? Your office door, Yuna said. Lock it. Luna tapped the control. The panel flashed secure. Only then did Yuna exhale, as if she had been holding herself upright, by rank alone. She leaned back in the visitor's chair and rubbed both hands over her face. For a moment, the Rear Admiral vanished, leaving only an older sister who had arrived too late to save everyone. What a freaky day, Yuna muttered. Everything went zoom, zoom, then boom. Giant space squid, vanished frigates, emergency teleport, and me going pew-pew like that was a normal Tuesday. Luna stared at her for one stunned second, and then the laugh escaped. Small at first, then raw, then almost painful. It did not erase the grief. It broke the pressure around it. Yuna managed a tired smile. There she is. Luna wiped at her eyes, not sure whether the tears came from laughter or loss. I missed you so much, she said. I know, Yuna replied, her voice softening. I missed you too. The quiet returned, but it was warmer now. Luna looked back at the casualty list, and the smile faded. I keep thinking I should have seen it sooner. I should have ordered the frigates wider. I should have— Stop, Yuna said. Luna shook her head. They were under my command. And you got the rest of them out alive, Yuna replied. That does not make the loss smaller. It does not make it fair. But command is not a magic shield, Luna. You cannot stand between every crew member and the dark. Luna's lips pressed together. Then what am I supposed to do with their names? Yuna leaned forward. Carry them. Later. Mourn them properly. Right now, bring home the living. The ship-wide speakers crackled overhead. 1 hour to ETA, docking at the military orbital station near Mars for repairs. Luna let out a slow breath. Yuna reached across the desk and touched 2 fingers to the edge of the casualty display. We have 1 hour, she said. Let's not give all of it to the dead. They already took enough from us today. Luna looked at her sister and nodded. Okay, she whispered. 1 hour. Yuna's personal comm chimed. The sound was small, but it cut through the room like an order. She answered without standing. Yellow. A pause. Her expression shifted back into command, piece by piece. Understood. I'm on my way. She ended the call and looked at Luna with regret she did not bother hiding. That's my cue. I need to beat feet. Luna tried to smile and failed. Do you really have to go? Yuna stood, then opened her arms. Come here. Luna crossed the office in 2 steps, and the Rear Admiral pulled her into a firm embrace. For a moment, there were no ranks, no fleets, no dead frigates, no giant creature drifting pale and broken in the outer dark. There were only 2 sisters holding on, because duty kept teaching them how to let go. I love you, Yuna said softly. And I miss you very much, baby sister. Luna held her tighter. I love you too. Don't forget to call when you get the chance. Yuna gave a quiet laugh against her shoulder. You know me. I'll call at the worst possible time. You always do. They parted slowly. The professionalism returned to their faces, but not before both of them saw what it cost. Yuna stepped toward the door, then paused and looked back. All right, Captain. Bring them home. Luna straightened, grief folding itself behind discipline. Yes, ma'am. She raised a crisp salute. Yuna returned it, and for one heartbeat, the gesture held everything they could not say. Then the door opened. The Rear Admiral stepped back into the war waiting beyond it, and Captain Luna Adam remained alone with the names. Chapter 5. 15 hours later, inside Earth Command, the War Room of Diplomacy stood quiet beneath the Colorado Rockies. Deep beneath Cheyenne Mountain, an ancient landmark in humanity's history, had become the heart of unified Earth strategy. Once divided, the world's powers now gathered there as one. The chamber's walls glowed with tactical displays, diplomatic seals, and restricted files waiting behind layers of military encryption. At the center of the room, the main archive console awakened. A cold, artificial voice filled the chamber. Restricted Historical Archive, Level 5 clearance, access granted. File number 139-A-777. Access granted. File name: The World's Last Great Negotiator. Access granted. Meanwhile, in a nearby chamber, Fleet Admiral Edison sat at the diplomatic roundtable with First Secretary Carla Sanchez and astroxenobiologist Mark Henry. 2 junior aides stood near the wall, silent and tense, waiting for the agenda to begin. Edison glanced at the digital clock glowing across his augmented heads-up display. Those 2 are late. Before anyone could answer, the chamber door hissed open. Rear Admiral Yuna Adam strode in first, carrying herself with the calm confidence of someone who had just survived the impossible. Ambassador Stephen Gardo followed close behind, a stack of research files tucked beneath one arm. It's about damn time, Edison snapped. Yuna gave him a loose, unapologetic salute. Sorry, boss man. I got held up catching a space squid. For half a second, the chamber went still. Gardo cleared his throat and set the files on the table. And I had to confirm a few details in the archive next door. Edison looked from Yuna to Gardo, unimpressed. You both understand this is a diplomatic war council, not a comedy briefing. Yuna pulled out a chair and dropped into it. With respect, Admiral, the squid started it. A faint cough escaped one of the junior aides before they snapped back to attention. Gardo folded his hands over the files and looked around the table. Shall we begin? The reason I called this meeting is to negotiate an alliance with the Galactic Empire Cygnus, with an equal standing, the ambassador said. The Fleet Admiral eyebrow rises with an interesting curiosity. A. Economic finance, establishing a small tourism land on one of the Galactic Empire's core world. It will generate 300 billion galactic credit on a yearly basis. B. Cultural exchange, music, art, quantum mathematics. Build an academy for the next-gen ambassador and military education classes. C. A full accesses to our science and civilian technology. As the ambassador read out loud, the negotiation offer the Fleet Admiral cut. In. Ambassador, you know very well they will put us under consideration only, the Fleet Admiral said. We should offer something more intriguing, the Fleet Admiral added. And what would that be? The ambassador replied. Fleet Admiral Edison leaned back in his chair and let the silence sit heavy over the diplomatic round table. His fingers tapped once against the polished black surface, and the holographic display above the center of the room shifted from economic projections to a frozen tactical image of the dead space squid near the outer edge of Seoul. Leverage, Edison said at last. That is what we offer them. Ambassador Gardo frowned. Leverage. Not tourism, not music, not technology wrapped in a bow and handed over like a peace basket, Edison replied. Those are gifts. Gifts can be refused, delayed, studied, or buried under a mountain of imperial paperwork. If we want Cygnus to treat us as equals, then we stop approaching them like we are asking permission to exist. First Secretary Sanchez folded her arms. Then what exactly do you suggest we put on the table, Admiral? Edison reached forward and expanded the hologram. The creature's corpse rotated slowly above the table, its pale body torn open from the crimson beam that had killed it. We offer them proof that humanity encountered something from the deep dark beyond their mapped influence, survived it, killed it, and recovered combat data they do not have. Yuna's eyes narrowed slightly. You want to use the squid incident as a bargaining chip? No, Edison said. I want to use our response to it. The room grew quiet again. Edison stood, and every aide in the chamber straightened on instinct. We propose a joint defense initiative, limited at first. Shared threat intelligence, coordinated border patrols, and a controlled exchange of combat data from the Dark Fleet's engagement with the creature. In return, Cygnus recognizes Earth as a sovereign strategic partner with equal standing under treaty law. Ambassador Gardo stared at him. You want to reveal Dark Fleet combat data to an empire we barely understand? Yuna leaned forward, her voice low. Careful, Admiral. That is not a gift. That is a loaded gun with a ribbon tied around it. Edison looked at her. Exactly. And empires respect loaded guns. Astro-xenobiologist Mark Henry adjusted his glasses and studied the rotating image. If this creature belongs to a migration pattern, or worse, if it was driven into our system by something larger, then Cygnus will want that information immediately. Their empire may be vast, but even vast empires fear unknown predators in the dark. Gardo's expression sharpened. So we do not ask them to accept us because we are wealthy, cultured, or advanced. We make them understand that alliance with Earth serves their security interests. Now you are thinking like a negotiator, Edison said. First Secretary Sanchez looked from Edison to Yuna. There has to be a restriction. If we offer too much, we invite espionage. If we offer too little, they dismiss us. Yuna nodded. Then we give them the corpse analysis, sensor logs, and tactical outcome. No weapon schematics, no teleportation math, no cloaking algorithms. They get the evidence that we can fight beside them, not the keys to our arsenal. Edison gave a satisfied nod. Agreed. We call it the Sol Cygnus Mutual Defense Accord. Equal recognition, shared intelligence, joint response protocols, emergency military liaison exchange. And one more thing. Gardo raised an eyebrow. There is always one more thing with military men. We request access to their frontier archives, Edison said. Not their core military secrets, Their old records, disappearances, dead zones, lost colonies, unexplained predator events, anything that resembles what attacked the Phoenix fleet. Mark Henry went still. You think the squid was not random? Edison's gaze remained fixed on the hologram. I think something scared a monster into our backyard. No one spoke for several seconds. At last, Ambassador Gardo closed the original proposal folder and slid it aside. Then we revised the offer. Edison sat down slowly. No, we sharpen it. Una gave him a sideways glance. And if Cygnus refuses? The fleet admiral's expression turned cold. Then they refuse, knowing humanity has something they need, something they fear, and something they cannot take without starting a war they are not prepared to finish. Ambassador Gardo drew in a slow breath, then nodded. Very well. I will present the alliance as a defense accord between two sovereign powers. Not a plea, not a tribute, a warning wrapped inside an invitation. Edison smiled faintly. Now that is intriguing, he said. We have 4 months to prepare. Chapter 6. As the Earth Command proceedings drew to a close, Fleet Admiral Edison remained seated at the diplomatic round table. Rear Admiral, stay back for a moment, he said. I need a word with you. Una stopped near the door and turned. Yes, sir. Once the chamber emptied, only Edison and Una remained beneath the dim glow of the strategic displays. The Fleet Admiral's expression hardened. You have 4 months and 1 shakedown cruise. Prepare your fleet and retrain them for a diplomatic mission. You may also select new personnel for aviation and ground operations, just in case everything goes sideways. Now that you mention it, I would choose 3 aviation pilots and 1 seaman from the Mockingbird, Una said. Her face remained calm and professional, but inside, she nearly laughed. This old man has jokes, she thought, fighting back a smirk. Edison's warning was serious, yet the way he delivered it made the assignment sound like a diplomatic mission with a storm cloud packed in her luggage. Una lowered her chin slightly, hiding her amusement behind a disciplined military stare. Edison raised 1 finger before she could leave. One more thing. I was never going to offer Cygnus a full technology exchange. Una paused. How much then? 5%, he said. Enough to impress them and prove we are serious, but not enough to hand them the soul of our military. Una studied him. You expect them to reverse engineer whatever we give them? I expect them to try, Edison replied. That is what empires do. They smile across the table, sign treaties with polished ink, and send analysts to pull every gift apart until they know how to use it against the giver. Una's expression hardened. So, the 5% is a controlled sample. A controlled sample and a warning, Edison said. We give them civilian systems, limited defensive technologies, medical advancements, and selected starship support architecture. Nothing from the Dark Fleet's core weapons. No teleportation equations, no cloaking matrices, no command encryption, no Titan-class reactor designs. Una nodded slowly. And while they study what we give them, we study how they study it. Edison's faint smile returned. Exactly. I want countermeasures ready before the exchange is complete. If Cygnus ever turns our technology against us, our fleets must be prepared to blind it, jam it, spoof it, and break it. Now I understand, Una said. This is not generosity. It is containment. It is diplomacy with armor underneath, Edison replied. And you, Rear Admiral, will make sure that armor holds. Edison's voice lowered. And Una, remember this. We are an empire too. Una met his gaze and nodded. I know, sir. Edison paused, then added, One more thing. Make the Empire believe the technology we are offering comes from the Dark Fleet. In truth, it does not. Yes, sir, Una replied, a deceptive smile forming at the corner of her mouth. I will notify the rest of our assembly about our little chat, the Fleet Admiral said. And Una, we will continue with the Ambassador's original proposal first. There is someone in Cygnus who is just as influential and powerful as I am, and for now, we are on good terms. He leaned forward, his voice dropping. At the last minute, we will insert the false Dark Fleet technology into the Alliance Treaty. His name is Fleet Admiral Vorgon of Cygnus. Una's smile faded. For the first time since entering the chamber, she did not answer immediately. The name Vorgon carried weight, even across the distance between empires. She had heard whispers of him in intercepted diplomatic channels, buried intelligence reports, and old frontier briefings no one outside high command was supposed to read. Fleet Admiral Vorgon was not just another officer in Cygnus. He was a pillar of their military aristocracy, an intelligent alien whose approval could open doors and whose suspicion could seal borders. Vorgon, Una repeated quietly, tasting the name like something bitter. You are not talking about a treaty partner, sir. You are talking about a kingmaker with a battle fleet. Edison's eyes narrowed with approval. So, you know of him? Enough to know he does not move unless the board favors him, Una said. And enough to know that if he finds out the Dark Fleet technology is false before the treaty is sealed, he will not just walk away from the table. He will flip it, burn the room, and make sure everyone knows Earth tried to play an empire. Edison leaned back, his expression unreadable. That is why I am telling you now. Una stood straighter, her humor gone, replaced by the cold precision of the Rear Admiral who commanded the Dark Fleet. Then let me be clear, sir. If Vorgon is involved, this mission stops being diplomacy and becomes controlled detonation. Every word, every escort formation, every shared file, every smile across that table will be a firing pin waiting for pressure. That is why you are going, Edison replied. Una let out a short, humorless laugh. Of course it is, because apparently, when someone wants to hand me a political bomb, they wrap it in admiral stripes and call it an assignment. A faint smile tugged at Edison's mouth. Can you handle him? Una's gaze shifted to the dark, strategic display above the table, where Sul and Cygnus glowed like distant sparks in a field of black. I can handle a fleet admiral, she said. What worries me is whether Vorgon is handling someone else. The room seemed colder after that. Edison did not dismiss the concern. Instead, he looked back to the frozen tactical display, his voice dropping to a near whisper. That possibility has crossed my mind. Una turned toward the exit, then paused at the door. Then I'll prepare for two enemies, sir. The one across the treaty table and the one behind him in the dark. Edison's voice stopped her. The same way I have someone standing behind me, the Fleet Admiral replied. The chamber door hissed open, and Rear Admiral Adams stepped out into the corridor. For a moment, Fleet Admiral Edison remained alone beneath the dim glow of the strategic displays. Then the door sealed shut behind her with a soft, metallic thud. Silence settled over the war chamber until a second door, hidden along the rear wall, slid open without a sound. A shadowed figure stepped inside, moving with the calm confidence of someone who belonged in rooms no one else knew existed. Fleet Admiral, the figure said, voice low and measured. You are playing a dangerous game. Edison did not turn around. I know. His gaze remained fixed on the glowing map of Sul and Cygnus. That is why you exist. The figure stopped at the edge of the light. Edison finally looked back, his expression unreadable. You are humanity's backup plan, he said, and you are my predecessor. The figure stepped fully into the dim blue light of the war chamber. His face looked older than the portraits buried in classified history files, but not weaker. Time had carved hard lines into his features, and the scar running from his left temple to his jaw gave him the look of a man who had survived battles no official record dared to name. Fleet Admiral Elias Peterson removed one black glove and placed it on the table, as if claiming the room by touch alone. "Humanity's backup plan," he repeated, his voice dry. "You always had a talent for dressing up desperation with strategy." Edison finally turned away from the glowing map. "Desperation kept us alive." "No," Peterson said. "Fear kept us alive. Desperation only teaches people how to make mistakes faster." For a moment, neither admiral spoke. Around them, the strategic displays continued their silent rotation. Sool, Cygnus, projected trade routes, military corridors, and the frozen image of the creature that had died near the Kuiper Belt. Peterson studied it with narrowed eyes. "That thing was not hunting," Peterson said. Edison's jaw tightened. Henry said the same thing. "Then your scientist is paying attention." Peterson moved closer to the hologram and watched the image rotate. "Predators do not run toward fortified systems unless something worse is behind them. Something big enough to turn instinct into panic." Edison folded his hands behind his back. "You think Cygnus knows what it is?" "I think Cygnus knows enough to be afraid," Peterson replied. "And I think Vorgon knows more than he will admit across a treaty table." Edison looked back at him. "You have intelligence on Vorgon." Peterson gave a thin smile. "I have ghosts. Some of them still whisper." He reached into the inner pocket of his uniform and withdrew a narrow black data shard. It was old, almost primitive, compared to modern command crystals. Yet Edison's eyes sharpened the instant he saw the etched symbol on its surface, a broken star surrounded by 7 points. "Where did you get that?" Edison asked. "From a dead world outside the old frontier," Peterson said. "Before Earth Command existed. Before the Unification War had a name. We found cities carved open from orbit, defense grids burned cold, and oceans boiled into glass. Whoever did it did not conquer the planet. They erased it." The temperature in the chamber seemed to drop another degree. Edison stared at the shard. "Why was this never placed in the archive?" "Because archives can be stolen," Peterson said. "And because the truth would have broken humanity before it was strong enough to survive it." Edison took the shard, but did not activate it. "You let the world believe you vanished." "I did vanish," Peterson replied. "Publicly, officially, cleanly. That was the only way to build the shadow network without politicians, admirals, or frightened civilians tearing it apart." "The contingency program," Edison said. Peterson nodded once. "Death Corps." The word landed heavier than any alarm. Edison had seen it only once, buried inside a sealed command packet that carried no author, no date, and no authorization chain. A myth inside the military. A rumor among admirals. A last command protocol designed for the day Earth lost everything. "You are telling me Death Corps is real," Edison said. "I'm telling you Death Corps is awake," Peterson replied. For the first time that night, Fleet Admiral Edison looked genuinely unsettled. Peterson slid the shard across the table until it rested beneath the rotating image of Sool and Cygnus. "If you send Una Adam to negotiate with Vorgon, she will need more than discipline, charm, and a battle fleet. She will need to know what Cygnus buried in its oldest records." "And if Vorgon is not the enemy?" Edison asked. Peterson looked toward the darkened wall where the hidden door remained open like a wound. "Then, he is the warning bell." A new alert pulsed across the main display. No sound, no siren. Just a single crimson signal bleeding through Earth Command's highest encryption level. Edison's command console translated the incoming transmission in silence. Unknown origin. No traceable route. No language profile. Then the message appeared. Sewell has been marked. Peterson closed his eyes for half a second, as if he had been waiting decades to hear those words, and still hated being right. Edison looked at him. By who? The old admiral opened his eyes. Not by who, Peterson said quietly. By what? He let the words hang in the cold air of the chamber before adding, but we still have time. 100 years, maybe 150, before whatever marked Sewell reaches us from the dark. The old fleet admiral turned back toward the glowing map of Cygnus. For now, continue the alliance treaty with the Galactic Empire Cygnus. If the storm is coming, humanity cannot face it alone. Chapter 7. 4 months later, the UHDF Romulus hung above Earth like a dark blade pointed toward the stars. The Titan-class dreadnought rested inside the upper military traffic lane, surrounded by refueling drones, cargo skiffs, and escort vessels running final checks. Along its armored hull, rows of shield emitters pulsed with quiet blue light. Beneath the ship, Earth turned slowly, peaceful and unaware of the storm its commanders had seen coming from the dark. On the command deck, Rear Admiral Una Adam stood before the forward display with her hands clasped behind her back. The official mission title glowed across the glass: Sol Cygnus, Diplomatic Escort, and Treaty Delegation. Beneath it, in a smaller classified line visible only to her clearance level, another designation waited in red. Contingency Watch, Death Corps Protocol active. Una stared at the words for a long moment. A diplomatic mission, they called it. A handshake across 30,000 light-years. A treaty table dressed in gold, protocol, and smiling diplomats. But the Romulus was not built for handshakes. It was built to end wars before they could begin. Final departure window opens in 20 minutes, her tactical officer reported from the pit below. Escort formation is locked. Star Carrier Mercy of Chaos is holding position off our port flank. Ambassador Gardo's shuttle has requested docking clearance. Granted, Una said, and tell Gardo if he brings another stack of ceremonial speech drafts onto my bridge. I'm spacing the paper and blaming decompression. A few officers hid smiles. No one laughed out loud. They knew better. The bridge doors opened, and 4 new arrivals stepped inside under escort. 3 wore aviation blacks with squadron patches still fresh on their shoulders. The 4th wore a patched utility jacket from the Mockingbird and looked like he had been dragged through 2 repair bays, 1 firefight, and a bad breakfast line. Una turned. Captain Roberts, Lieutenant First Class Merrick, Ensign Kimura Ju-un, Seaman Hanks. Her eyes settled on the last one. You are all here because your names crossed my desk during the Phoenix incident. Hanks blinked. Ma'am, if this is about the rescue craft Cold Start, I can explain. You launched without checklist authorization, ignored standard recovery protocol, flew into an active combat debris field, and brought back 3 pilots who would otherwise still be floating out there, Una said. Hanks swallowed. So, bad news first? Una's mouth twitched. The bad news is that you are reckless. The good news is that I occasionally find reckless useful. Captain Roberts stood at attention. Admiral, with respect, what exactly is our assignment? Una looked back to the forward display as the star map expanded. A bright line stretched from Sewell to the far empire of Cygnus, crossing sectors few human ships had ever dared to approach. Officially, she said, we are escorting Ambassador Gardo to negotiate humanity's first equal-standing alliance with the Galactic Empire Cygnus. She paused as the bridge lights dimmed for departure. Unofficially, We are going to find out what frightened a monster into Seoul, what Cygnus is hiding in its oldest records, and whether Fleet Admiral Vorgon is our ally, our enemy, or just the first warning shot. A low vibration rolled through the deck as the Romulus began to break orbit. Yuna watched Earth shrink on the display, then opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Rear Admiral Adam. Set course for Cygnus. Diplomatic formation, weapons cold, shields warm. Let's go make friends with an empire, and keep one hand near the trigger." Rear Admiral Yuna Adam opened the fleet-wide channel once more. For a moment, she said nothing. She let every ship hear the silence, let it pass through every bridge, every hangar, every engine room, and every frightened heart beneath her command. Then her voice carried across the formation. "Before we reach the Empire, I want every soul in this fleet to hear me clearly. Today, we do not simply fly toward a treaty table, we fly toward judgment. By the end of this mission, humanity will either stand beside Cygnus as an equal, or we will learn exactly how far an empire will go to keep us beneath them." Her gaze remained fixed on the stars ahead. "We were called the Dark Fleet because we moved where others feared to look. We were the shadow at the edge of every battlefield, the blade no enemy saw until it was too late. But shadows are not enough anymore. The dark has found us. Something out there has marked Seoul. Something older, colder, and hungrier than any empire is moving through the void." Yuna's voice hardened. No longer just an admiral's order, but a vow forged in steel and fire. "So today, we leave the name Dark Fleet behind. From this moment forward, we become the Deathcore Fleet. Not because we worship death, not because we seek it, but because we were born on a death world, tempered by its storms, hardened by its wars, and taught by its graves that survival is not given. It is taken, defended, and paid for in blood." She drew a slow breath, and when she spoke again, her words struck like cannon fire. "Engrave that name into your hearts, carve it into your bones, carry it in your minds when fear whispers, when empires sneer, and when the dark reaches for home. Let it become our oath, our burden, and our legacy. We are humanity's edge in the abyss. We are Death Worlders. We are Deathcore." For a heartbeat, the bridge remained silent. No one moved. Even the low hum of the command deck seemed to fade beneath the weight of her words. Then her tactical officer slowly rose from the weapons station, one hand still resting near the firing controls, and looked toward the Admiral with a rare softness in her eyes. "Admiral," she said, her voice quiet, but steady enough for the entire bridge to hear. "That was not just a beautiful speech. That was a banner. Something every soul in this fleet can carry into the dark." Yuna did not answer at first. Her eyes stayed on the stars, but the faintest smile touched the corner of her mouth as the bridge speakers picked up distant cheering and laughter from the docking bay. "Good," she said at last, quiet enough that only the command deck could hear. "If they can still laugh before stepping into the dark, then they are exactly the kind of lunatics I need." Meanwhile, in the docking bay of the Romulus, every ground pounder, every featherhead, and every deckhand within earshot heard the Rear Admiral's speech echo through the overhead speakers. For a moment, the bay was quiet. Then someone near the troop racks threw both fists into the air. "Finally! Hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about!" Another voice shouted from beside a fuel loader. "It's about goddamn time!" A maintenance chief leaned out from beneath a half-open fighter panel, grease smeared across one cheek. "Deathcore Fleet, huh?" she said, tightening a plasma coupler with a sharp twist. "Sounds like Command finally gave us a name that matches the repair bills." A nearby deckhand snorted. "As long as the name comes with hazard pay, I'll tattoo it on my forehead." A supply tech looked up from an inventory tablet and frowned. Do we have to update every crate label from Dark Fleet to Deathcore Fleet? Because I just finished stenciling 600 ammo boxes. The maintenance chief pointed her wrench at him. Congratulations. You have been promoted to chief of repainting things nobody asked you to paint. Near the ammunition carts, a young Marine checked the seal on his armor and swallowed hard. You all heard the part about something older and hungrier moving through the void, right? The Marine beside him slapped a fresh magazine into his pulse rifle. Yeah, I also heard the part where we're the edge in the abyss. Try to focus on the cooler sentence. A corporal sitting on an ammunition crate raised one hand. Question. If we're Deathcore now, do we still file safety reports? Or do we just scream dramatically and hope the paperwork gets scared? A medic walking past answered without slowing down. You still file the reports. Death may be optional, but administration is eternal. One of Roberts's veteran pilots tapped the side of her helmet and grinned. I'm not saying I was looking for a reason to repaint my fighter, but Deathcore has a knight's ring to it. Another pilot glanced over. You paint a skull on that thing, command will make you sand it off. Then I'll paint two, she replied. Near the fighter launch rails, a nervous rookie pilot stared at the Deathcore name scrolling across his helmet display. Does this mean our insurance premiums go up? His wingman clapped him on the shoulder. Buddy, after the space squid incident, your insurance company already blocked your number. From the troop benches, a heavy-set ground pounder raised his ration cup like it was a ceremonial glass. To Deathcore, he called. May our enemies hear the name and develop sudden medical issues. Someone answered from behind a cargo loader. Like explosive panic? The ground pounder nodded solemnly. Exactly. Very tragic. Very terminal. Someone from behind a stack of missile racks shouted, Do we get a new fleet song? Another voice answered, Only if Preacher writes it. Half the bay groaned at once. Roberts muttered, Absolutely not. Last time he rhymed glory with inventory for 6 verses. Lieutenant First Class Merrick, better known to the squadron as Preacher, stood frozen beside his fighter with his helmet tucked under one arm. His eyes drifted toward the massive bay doors and the endless black beyond them. Without realizing his comm was still live, he muttered, What the fuck did I get myself into this time? Captain Roberts turned his head just enough for Merrick to see the grin forming under his flight helmet. Preacher, he said, chuckling to himself, you're thinking out loud again. Then he lifted his voice so the nearby pilots could hear. And for the record, if this mission goes sideways, I want it logged that Lieutenant Merrick achieved full spiritual clarity approximately 12 seconds before panic. Merrick snapped his head toward him. Sir, that was a private crisis. Roberts pointed at the overhead speakers. Not anymore. The bay, the squadron, and possibly 3 maintenance bots are now witnesses. A mechanic raised a wrench. 4 bots, sir. One of them started recording. Roberts sighed. Of course it did. Somebody delete that before command turns it into a training video titled, How Not to Inspire Confidence Before First Contact. The laughter grew louder, and Roberts finally raised one gloved hand. All right, comedians, breathe it out. You heard the Admiral. We are Deathcore now, which means we do not panic, we do not miss launch checks, and we absolutely do not let the diplomats see us arguing about skull decals. He paused, then added, until after the treaty signing. Then we revisit the skull issue like professionals. That did it. The nearby pilots, mechanics, and ground crews lost whatever discipline they had left. Laughter rolled across the docking bay, bouncing off the fighters, cargo lifts, and armored bulkheads, until even Roberts had to look away to keep from joining in too loudly. Roberts let the laughter fade just enough before he sealed his helmet under one arm and looked across the bay. All right, Deathcore, he said, his grin sharpening into something almost dangerous. Laugh now. Check your gear twice, and pray the diplomats do their jobs, because if they don't, we're the backup plan. Chapter 8. Back on the Romulus bridge, Rear Admiral Una Adam turned toward her command chair. Lieutenant Jenkins, you have the bridge. I have a mission briefing with Destiny. Aye, aye, Admiral, Lieutenant Sarah Jenkins replied, amusement sparkling in her eyes. Una crossed the command deck, while the officers pretended not to watch her leave. The bridge doors opened with a soft hiss, and the sound of tactical chatter faded behind her as she stepped into the forward corridor. Beyond the armored viewports, the stars stretched into long, silver threads as the Romulus settled deeper into faster-than-light transit. The mission briefing chamber waited 3 decks below the bridge, sealed behind 2 biometric locks, a rotating command cipher, and 1 security drone that had the personality of a suspicious customs officer. Its single optic tracked Una as she approached. State authorization, the drone demanded. Una stopped in front of it. Rear Admiral Una Adam, Command Authority Death Corps 1. And if you ask me to smile for facial confirmation again, I am assigning you to laundry inventory. The drone paused, processed the threat, and shifted aside. Authorization accepted. No smile required. Smart little toaster, Una muttered as the door opened. The chamber beyond was dark, except for a circular table and a suspended holographic star map. Sul glowed behind her. Cygnus burned ahead. Between them, in a narrow band of uncharted deep space, a crimson marker pulsed like a wound. A woman's voice filled the room, calm, clear, and far too amused for something that technically did not breathe. You are 3 minutes late, Rear Admiral. Una stepped inside as the door sealed behind her. Good morning to you too, Destiny. The hologram shimmered, and Destiny appeared above the table in the form she preferred. A tall, silver-blue projection with human eyes, a military posture, and a face designed by someone who clearly believed artificial intelligence should look like it already knew your secrets. You look annoyed, Destiny said. I renamed a fleet, launched a diplomatic convoy, inherited a century-old extinction warning, and left Jenkins alone with my bridge, Una replied. Annoyed is me being polite. Destiny folded her holographic hands behind her back. Then I will avoid polite language. The mission is compromised before arrival. Una's expression went still. Explain. The star map shifted. A second projection appeared. Fleet Admiral Vorgon of Cygnus, rendered from intercepted diplomatic records. He was massive even as a hologram, armored in dark ceremonial plating, with 6 deep-set eyes and a crest of bone sweeping back from his skull like a crown built for war. Vorgon has accepted Ambassador Gardo's negotiation window, Destiny said. Officially, he supports preliminary contact. Unofficially, his military council has moved 3 heavy fleets near the treaty corridor. Defensive posture, Una asked. They call it ceremonial escort placement. Una gave Destiny a flat look. That sounds like a funeral with extra guns. Accurate, Destiny replied. There is more. Cygnus internal traffic shows restricted references to old frontier dead zones, the same locations Peterson's Shard flagged before departure. Vorgon knows those records exist, and he has ordered them sealed under Imperial Command Authority. Una circled the table slowly, eyes fixed on the crimson marker between Sul and Cygnus. So he either knows what marked Sul, or he knows enough to be afraid of the answer. That is my assessment, Destiny said. There is also a probability that he is baiting us into revealing the Death Corps protocol. Una stopped moving. No one outside Earth Command knows Death Corps is active. Incorrect, Destiny said. The word hit harder than an alarm. Una turned her head slowly. Run that by me again. Destiny raised one hand, and a third projection opened above the table, the message that had pierced Earth Command's highest encryption 4 months earlier. Soul has been marked. The signal did not only enter Earth Command, Destiny said. It listened on its way out. Yuna's jaw tightened. How much did it take? Fragments. Enough to identify the word DEATHCORE. Enough to identify you. Enough to recognize the Romulus as command nucleus. For the first time since entering the room, Yuna said nothing. The hum of the ship filled the silence. Somewhere above them, the bridge kept working. Somewhere behind them, Earth had already become a memory on the wrong side of distance. Recommendations? Yuna asked. Destiny's expression sharpened. Maintain diplomatic posture. Do not reveal the breach to Gardo unless necessary. Keep weapons cold and shields warm. Assign Roberts to silent launch readiness. Place Merrick on forward combat rotation. Put Hanks near engineering override access. Yuna blinked once. Hanks? He is statistically irresponsible in a useful direction. Despite herself, Yuna smiled. That may be the most accurate crew evaluation I have ever heard. The crimson marker pulsed again. This time it moved. Destiny's hologram flickered. Admiral. Yuna looked up. I see it. The marker was no longer sitting between Sewell and Cygnus. It was bending toward their route, adjusting with the impossible patience of something that had noticed them. Destiny's voice dropped into a register Yuna had never heard from her before. Whatever marked Sewell has changed course. Yuna reached for the command channel. Jenkins, sound quiet alert. No fleet-wide panic. No diplomatic chatter. Bring Roberts, Gardo, and our irresponsible miracle worker to briefing room 3. Jenkins answered at once. Yes, Admiral. And by irresponsible miracle worker, do you mean Seaman Hanks? Yuna glanced at Destiny. Destiny said nothing, which somehow made the answer worse. Yes, Yuna said. And tell him if he asks whether this is bad, the answer is classified. The channel clicked off. Across the table, the crimson marker pulsed once more, brighter than before. Yuna stared at it and felt the old instinct settle into her bones. The one that came before battle, before loss, before history decided whose names it would remember. All right, Destiny, she said. Brief me like the universe is trying to kill us. Destiny looked toward the moving crimson point. It may already be trying, Destiny said. Rear Admiral Yuna Adam added. Destiny, include the ambassador in the briefing as well. Her tone left no room for debate. Destiny's eyes narrowed by a fraction. Ambassador Gardo's clearance does not include active DEATHCORE breach analysis. Then upgrade his clearance, Yuna said. He cannot negotiate blind while Vorgon counts the knives under the table. The chamber doors opened before Destiny could object. Ambassador Stephen Gardo stepped inside with his formal coat half-fastened and a diplomatic tablet tucked beneath one arm. He looked from Yuna to Destiny, then to the crimson marker bending across the star map. Admiral, Gardo said, I was told this was a briefing. That looks less like a briefing and more like the universe developing an opinion about us. Yuna pointed to the table. Stand by the map. Gardo obeyed, but his eyes never left the moving marker. Before I stand anywhere near that, I would appreciate knowing whether it represents a ship, a weapon, a natural phenomenon, or one of those delightful classified horrors the military names with too many capital letters. Unknown, Destiny said. Gardo turned slowly toward the hologram. Destiny, I respect you as a strategic intelligence system, but if your opening answer to the ambassador is unknown, I am going to assume the rest of this conversation involves bad news, wearing formal shoes. Yuna crossed her arms. The object marked Sewell 4 months ago. It breached Earth Command encryption, listened on the way out, identified DEATHCORE, identified me, and now appears to be adjusting course toward our projected route. Gardo absorbed that without speaking, Then he set his tablet on the table with deliberate care. Then we are not walking into a treaty negotiation. We are walking into a room where everyone is pretending the ceiling is not on fire. That is one interpretation, Destiny said. It is the only useful one, Gardo replied. Diplomacy is not the art of pretending. Danger does not exist. It is the art of making dangerous people believe survival is more profitable than pride. Yuna studied him. Can you make Vorgon believe that? Gardo looked at Vorgon's projection and gave a thin, humorless smile. Vorgon does not need to believe it. He needs to suspect that I know something he cannot afford to ignore. Destiny's holographic expression sharpened. You intend to bluff. No, Gardo said. A bluff is pretending to hold a weapon. I intend to place a locked box on the table, let him hear something breathing inside it, and never confirm whether I have the key. Yuna's mouth twitched. That is unsettlingly poetic. Thank you, Gardo said. I save my best metaphors for situations where everyone may die. He leaned closer to the map. But I need the truth, Admiral. All of it. If Vorgon mentions dead zones, missing colonies, old frontier records, or whatever nightmare Peterson buried in that shard, I cannot afford to learn what it means from the expression on your face. Yuna's gaze hardened. You are asking for access to operational secrets. I'm asking not to be sent into an imperial court wearing a blindfold and a ceremonial smile, Gardo replied. If I'm to speak for humanity, then humanity needs to stop whispering behind me. For a moment, the only sound in the room was the low hum of the star map. Yuna finally nodded. Destiny. Ambassador Gardo receives temporary full diplomatic threat clearance for the duration of this mission. Redact weapon schematics and fleet kill procedures. Nothing else. Acknowledged, Destiny said. Ambassador Gardo now has access to restricted threat context. Gardo gave Yuna a small nod. Thank you. For the record, I prefer honesty before catastrophe. It gives me more time to make the catastrophe useful. Destiny regarded him for half a second. Your diplomatic philosophy is alarmingly compatible with Admiral Adams' command profile. Gardo looked at Yuna. Should I be offended? A little, Yuna said. Then I accept the insult in the spirit of interdepartmental cooperation, Gardo said. The crimson marker pulsed again, brighter and closer than before. Gardo's humor faded as he watched it crawl along their projected route. Admiral, he said quietly, if that thing reaches the treaty corridor before we do, I want authority to change the opening statement. To what? Yuna asked. Gardo's eyes remained on the marker. To the truth. Humanity did not come begging for recognition. We came carrying a warning. The briefing room doors opened again, this time with less diplomatic grace and more boot noise. Captain Roberts entered first, helmet tucked beneath one arm, flight jacket still half sealed from the launch deck. Behind him came Seaman Hanks, carrying a tool case in one hand and a half-eaten ration bar in the other. Roberts stopped at attention. Rear Admiral, Ambassador, Destiny. His eyes flicked to the crimson marker. Please tell me that is not moving toward us. Hanks leaned around him, squinted at the hologram, and lowered the ration bar. Oh shit. That is absolutely moving toward us. I do not like how confidently it is doing that. Yuna pointed to the table. Captain Roberts, I want your squadrons ready for silent launch. No engines hot unless I give the word. No heroic improvisation unless survival requires it. Roberts nodded once. Understood. Birds cold, pilots strapped, weapons safed but loaded. If you need a screen between the fleet and whatever that is, we can be out in 60 seconds. Make it 45, Yuna said. Roberts's mouth twitched. Then I will terrify my deck crews with efficiency. Hanks raised 2 fingers halfway. For the record, ma'am, when you say no heroic improvisation, does that mean regular improvisation is still allowed? Destiny answered before Yuna could. Your definition of regular improvisation includes bypassing 3 safety governors with a spoon. Hanks looked offended. It was not a spoon. It was a reinforced dining implement with strategic potential. Gardo glanced at Yuna. This is the irresponsible miracle worker? Unfortunately, Yuna said. Also yes. Robert stepped closer to the map, his humor fading. Admiral, if that marker represents a vessel, it is matching our course correction almost too cleanly. That is not pursuit. That is prediction. Destiny turned toward him. Correct. It is not chasing where we are. It is moving toward where we will be. Hank swallowed the last bite of ration bar and pointed at the projection. Okay, that is rude. Space monsters should not get math. Yuna looked at him. Hanks, Destiny wants you near engineering override access. Hanks blinked. That sounds either like a promotion or the beginning of a criminal investigation. It is a contingency assignment, Destiny said. If the unknown entity interferes with propulsion, shielding, or command relays, you may be required to restore manual control faster than standard procedure allows. Hanks straightened a little. You want me to break the rules on purpose? Yuna held his gaze. I want you to keep this ship alive. If the rulebook helps, use it. If it gets in the way, tell me afterward which pages you burned. A slow grin spread across Hanks's face. Admiral, I have been training for this exact sentence my entire career. Roberts looked at him. That is not comforting. Captain, Hanks replied. Comforting is for pillows. I am more of a last-minute panic solution. Gardo folded his arms. I suddenly understand why Destiny's survival projection improved only slightly. Destiny inclined her head. Ambassador, the presence of unpredictable personnel can create exploitable variants against superior unknown systems. Hanks pointed at Destiny. See? I am exploitable variants. Roberts sighed. Please do not put that on a uniform patch. Too late, Hanks said. I already know a guy in the docking bay. Yuna cut through the laughter before it could grow. Enough! Roberts, prepare your pilots for a silent scramble. Hanks, report to engineering override and do not touch anything unless Destiny, Chief Engineering, or I tell you to. Hanks lifted his tool case. Define touch. Roberts put one hand on Hanks's shoulder and turned him toward the door. That is our cue to leave before you make the Admiral regret strategy. Hanks allowed himself to be guided out, still looking back at the map. For what it is worth, ma'am, if the scary red dot starts messing with the engines, I can probably give us one ugly jump. Yuna's eyes narrowed. How ugly? Hanks gave her a nervous thumbs up. The kind where everyone survives, but nobody enjoys the paperwork. Roberts dragged him the rest of the way through the door. Absolutely not comforting. The doors sealed behind them, leaving Yuna, Gardo, and Destiny, with the crimson marker still crawling toward their future. Chapter 9. 4 more days until we reach the Galactic Empire Cygnus, Rear Admiral Yuna Adams said with a heavy sigh. Everyone, rest up. We restart the diplomatic briefing with fresh minds. 1 day behind the Romulus, Fleet Admiral Edison stood on the bridge of the UHDF Iron Verdict, watching a crimson marker bend across the tactical display like it knew where the treaty fleet would be before the treaty fleet did. Commander Vale handed him the latest intelligence slate. Destiny confirms the marker is predictive, sir. Not pursuit. Not random drift. Edison's jaw tightened. Then something is hurting the Romulus. Vale's silence answered for him. Use the quantum channel, Edison ordered. Get me Fleet Admiral Vorgon. The bridge crew straightened at once. Vale opened the connection, then gave Edison a look that said he was prepared for imperial thunder, classified disaster, or both. Instead, Vorgon appeared on the hologram with one massive elbow propped against an unseen armrest. Edison pointed at him and grinned. "What's up, boss man? How you doing?" Vorgon spread his hands wide. "What's up, old friend? I am itching for a little pew-pew myself." For one dangerous second, the bridge forgot how rank worked. Chief Analyst Wren mouthed pew-pew to herself and hid behind her tablet. Vale's expression remained professional only through heroic personal sacrifice. Edison let the laughter fade first. "Let us get serious for a moment, Vorgon." Vorgon's humor vanished. "The red marker is approaching the Romulus in a predictive pattern, not seek and destroy. Whoever moves it is arranging a battlefield." "I have one name that may interest us both," Vorgon added softly. "The Nova Empire." Edison went still. Vorgon lowered his head. "If my assumptions are right, this connects to the incident 2 years ago. Earth time. Junior Ambassador Erica Edison. Your daughter." The bridge fell silent. The name struck harder than any alarm. "They attacked and killed the junior ambassador," Vorgon said, as gently as his voice could allow. "In my language, I would say they killed your hatchling, your beloved child." For a long moment, Fleet Admiral Edison did not move. The tactical displays, the officers, the crimson marker, all of it faded beneath one name. Erica. His hand slipped from the command rail by barely an inch, but every officer saw it. The man who stared down empires had just lost the strength to hold on. Commander Vale stepped forward carefully. "Sir?" Edison did not answer. He remembered Erica in her junior ambassador's uniform, smiling with more courage than caution. He remembered warning her about the frontier. He remembered her answer. Danger was just another language diplomats had to learn. Then he remembered the sealed casualty report. "Her name was Erica Edison," he said, voice steady only because he forced it to be. "Junior Ambassador of Earth. My daughter." Vorgon placed one fist against his chest in a Cygnus salute. "Then let her name stand between us with honor." Edison swallowed hard. "I buried her with an empty coffin. No body. No final transmission. Just a flag, a sealed report, and people telling me she died serving peace." His eyes sharpened. "Now you are telling me peace was never the reason she died." "I am telling you the Nova Empire may have used her death to poison this treaty before it was born," Vorgon said. Edison gripped the rail again. This time, the metal bent because he held on too tightly. No one on the bridge spoke. Harrow's hand hovered above weapons, and then eased back. Wren lowered her tablet. The younger officers went still, seeing for the first time that legends could bleed. Vale's voice was low. "Admiral, we are with you." Anger rose through Edison's grief, cold and terrible. "If that is the same empire approaching the Romulus," he said, "I will glass their worlds until their empire is ash and memory." The vow settled over the bridge like a weapon being armed. Vale stepped forward before silence could become permission. "Say the word, and every soul on this ship will follow you into hell. But let it be justice, sir, not the Nova Empire opening the wound they wanted." Edison released the rail. The bent metal kept the shape of his anger. "You are right," he said. "We do not burn an empire because we are wounded. We burn only if they make themselves a threat to every world that still believes peace is worth defending." Vorgon bowed his massive head. "Then let justice lead us, old friend, not grief." Edison turned so the whole bridge could hear him. "If the Nova Empire attacks the Romulus, We go to war. Every ship, every fleet, every world under Earth's protection. But if they pull back, if they give us even one path that does not end in slaughter, I will not spend your lives to satisfy my grief." The bridge did not cheer. It settled. Harrow returned his hand to the weapons console without fear. Wren logged the order in a quiet voice. "Strategic response conditional on hostile action. Defensive posture maintained unless the Romulus is engaged." "Log it that way," Edison said. One by one, the officers returned fully to their stations. They had heard the vow. They had heard the restraint. Both would matter. At navigation, a young ensign lifted her chin. "Course holding, Admiral. We remain 1 day behind the Romulus. No deviation unless ordered." "Good," Edison said. The single word steadied the room more than a speech could have. Vorgon looked across the bridge through the hologram. "Your crew honors you, Edison, not because they fear your anger, but because they have seen you master it." Edison looked at his officers. No one looked away. That was their answer. Chapter 10. The Death Corps fleet was 1 day from Cygnus when tension aboard the UHDF Romulus sharpened into dread. Rear Admiral Una Adams stood near the command rail, while Ambassador Gardo reviewed the treaty packet, both pretending the mission was still only diplomacy. Then the communications console erupted with a priority alert. "Incoming hail," the communications officer reported. "Signal origin, Galactic Empire Cygnus. Fleet Admiral level." Una's expression hardened. On screen, Fleet Admiral Vorgon appeared, grim and urgent. "Rear Admiral Una, I am coming in hot as your protector. ETA, 3 hours. Enemy fleet ETA is 9 hours, not 24. Around the bridge, hands froze over consoles. No one panicked, but fear showed in tightened jaws, clipped breaths, and the sudden silence of people realizing the battle had arrived early. 5 minutes later, space ahead of the fleet tore open in blue-white light, and Vorgon's colossal dreadnought dropped from FTL beside the Romulus. Una stared despite herself. "Damn," she said. "That is a big car." From the rear stations, someone muttered, "That's what she said." The bridge held its breath. Una slowly turned. "Who said that?" No one answered. Vorgon's warship locked into protective position off their flank as a few strangled laughs escaped. The quantum channel opened. Vorgon's image sharpened on the forward display. "Good morning, everyone. Apologies. I am late." Una gave him a flat look. "Same to you, Fleet Admiral." Vorgon's eyes flicked toward the rear stations. Also, someone forgot to close the channel after an Earth joke. His smile widened. Poorly timed, wildly inappropriate, and funny. Gardo looked as if he wanted the deck to swallow him. Vorgon chuckled. "Consider it a cultural exchange." "Before we begin," Vorgon said, nostalgia entering his voice, "I served aboard the Romulus back in the day with Edison. He was a communications officer then, and I worked in intelligence. Things changed after our fleet admiral disappeared 20, maybe 25 years ago." Vorgon chuckled softly. "And Destiny's personality? Let us just say some of it may have come from me." Una's jaw fell open. "I had no idea. Edison never mentioned that part of his military life." The reaction moved across the bridge in small waves. Jenkins froze over tactical. Navigation pretended not to stare. Communications looked betrayed by every classified file she had ever trusted. And Gardo lowered his tablet as if recalculating the treaty in real time. "ETA to enemy fleet contact. 5 hours, the communications officer announced. The words cut through the laughter and pulled every eye back to the tactical display. Vorgon's 4 eyes narrowed. "Destiny, is that you?" Destiny's hologram flickered into existence with perfect military posture and absolutely no respect in her voice. "Yes, you stupid jerk," the ship's AI replied. For half a second, no one breathed. Then Vorgon threw his head back and laughed, the sound booming through the bridge speakers. Even the crew's restrained smiles helped loosen the fear before Yuna raised one hand and snapped the bridge back to readiness. "Enough laughter for one day," Vorgon said as command returned to his voice. "Rear Admiral Yuna Adam, the red marker you believed was a phenomenon is no phenomenon. It is an enemy fleet from the Galactic Empire Nova." The bridge fell silent. Vorgon continued. "Before I came to you, I spoke with Fleet Admiral Edison. Whatever you and Ambassador Gardo decide, you have my full vote for a true alliance. Cygnus will stand with you, genuinely and truly." His expression hardened. "But the signing cannot happen at the negotiation table, not yet. The Empire Council has been compromised." Yuna stared at him through the transmission field, weighing the words against the 5-hour countdown. Compromised Council. Nova Fleet. No safe signing table. The mission had shed its diplomatic skin and shown the blade beneath. "Understood," Yuna said. "Then we do not walk into that chamber blind, and we do not put Ambassador Gardo within reach of a compromised council. Jenkins, update threat status. Enemy force confirmed Nova Empire. Weapons stay cold until I say otherwise, but I want firing solutions prepared, shields reinforced, and every escort captain ready to move on my word." Yuna looked to Gardo. "Revise the approach. No ceremonial signing, no closed-room protocol. Every negotiation is now a security operation until we know who inside the council has been bought, threatened, or replaced." Gardo nodded once. "Agreed." Facing Vorgon again, Yuna said, "Humanity accepts your vote with gratitude, but not blindly. If Cygnus stands with us, then stand where we can see you, fight where we can trust you, and tell us everything you know about Nova before they reach firing range." Vorgon met her steel with his own. "If Nova attacks, both our peoples go to war. But if they pull back, we still have a second chance at the table." The bridge understood the choice. Jenkins entered a conditional war posture, while navigation marked two futures. Red for war if Nova fired, gold for diplomacy if they turned away. Gardo closed the treaty packet. 5 hours from contact, history waited to open with signatures or gunfire. Nova knows that once our alliance is sealed, not merely with ink, but with trust, both our peoples will grow stronger than any power under the heavens, Vorgon said, pride and honor carrying every word. Fear remained, but Vorgon's declaration hardened it into purpose. The crew saw more than firing solutions now. They saw a future worth defending.
ETA to enemy fleet approach. 3 hours, communications announced. Nova formation is holding course. No retreat signal detected. 3 hours felt less like time, and more like a fuse. Jenkins tightened the defensive grid. Navigation recalculated intercept drift, and communications kept every fleet channel open but restrained. Yuna looked from Gardo to Vorgon, then to the red markers. Then we use every second. The bridge shifted into disciplined preparation. Shields rose to combat threshold. Point defense awakened. Weapons teams confirmed charges, and navigation plotted negotiation, withdrawal, and a hard intercept line no one wanted to name. Encrypted links open to escorts, fighter bays, marines, medical decks, and Vorgon's bridge. Replies came back in clipped bursts. Shields warm, crews sealed, medics ready. Harnesses clicked tight across the bridge, and fear disappeared beneath ritual and training. Gardo watched soldiers prepare to defend diplomacy with steel. On the display, Vorgon's fleet matched the Romulus ship for ship. They were not allies by signature yet, but necessity had already begun writing the treaty in formation lines and shield patterns. No one fires first, Yuna said. But if Nova chooses war, they learn in the first 30 seconds that they chose poorly. Jenkins answered, "Aye, Admiral." 3 hours remained. The crew prepared with quiet hands and locked systems. Then the communications officer froze over her console. That does not look right. Una turned. What does not look right? The corrected telemetry snapped into place, and the communications officer went pale. ETA to enemy fleet approach. 1 hour. The klaxon rolled through the Romulus in sharp yellow pulses. Una's voice cut through it, loud and absolute. Code yellow. Battle stations. Enemy fleet ETA is now 1 hour. Tactical. Shields to full combat threshold, and weapons safed until my authorization. Helm, defensive formation. Delta 3, communications. Alert every escort. Diplomacy remains active. But if Nova lights a weapon, the fleet answers before their first shot crosses the distance. She swept the bridge with one hard look. Marines, secure access points. Damage control and medical, stand ready. No one fires first. No one breaks formation. We are still here to make peace. But if Nova mistakes restraint for weakness, we will correct them. The yellow alert did not fade as the minutes collapsed. Across the Romulus, jokes died in throats. Armor seals locked, and every corridor narrowed into purpose. The treaty fleet had come to Cygnus carrying words, signatures, and hope. Now it carried those things behind raised shields.